Welcome to Intentionality with Dominique, the show that helps business owners become valued and in-demand suppliers in the marketplace to scale their businesses. Let's start today's show with host and intentional connector, Dominique Simpson-Milton.
Welcome to another episode of Intentionality, the show dedicated to increasing the success rate of entrepreneurs and their businesses by sharing the strategies and tactics of successful suppliers. I am your host, Dominique Simpson-Milton. Today's episode is brought to you by Capital One and CVMSDC, also known as the Council. Today, we are discussing how to make your business bank ready and the importance of building an international team. I met our guest nearly 20 years ago and reconnected through this network. And Ramakumaran, founder and CEO of Ampcus Incorporated, started her business in her basement with a newborn by her side. Since then, she's grown it to one of our top businesses with international operations. Despite her success, Erin has remained humble and intentionally inclusive. In the early days, banks turned her down, but today her company is bankable. And welcome to the show.
Dominic, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here and looking forward to this conversation.
Yes.
And I'm so happy we got, reconnected, and thanks. And that's the power of this network.
The network is powerful. People do not understand that.
Yeah.
So Ian, tell us, you built the business from the basement to what it is now, a global brand. What do you actually do? And then how did you do it?
Sure. Well, let me take you back to our 20-year journey. So Dominique, I started my entrepreneur journey in 2004 from the basement of my house with my 1-year-old. And here we are today. We're a global company with a global workforce of over 2,400 employees globally. Well, I started my entrepreneurial journey in 2004. And the reason why I took that plunge, if you may, was because during that time frame, what I realized, there were a lot of businesses that focused on either providing business consulting services, technology consulting services, or human capital management. But there weren't many that really existed to solve business problem by bringing in the right technology solution and bring projects to finish line by bringing in human capital management. Hence felt the need, Dominique, to start that one-shop stop, if you may. And here we are today. What we do is we provide innovative, cost-effective, quality, and sustainable business and technology solutions, as well as staff augmentation services to over 80 of the Fortune 100 and 121 of the Fortune 1000 companies, federal agencies, state and local, as well as nonprofits.
Outstanding. So what has that journey been like? Because you do a lot now, so you've grown tremendously. But tell me about the journey, the good and the bad.
Yeah, sure. The journey has been great. Obviously, from an initial days perspective, right, had to start at grounds up. So, in those initial first 6-7 months, you name it, I had all possible titles, right? Founder, CEO, HR, recruiter, legal, finance, you name it, right? But early on, I realized if the goal is to build an enterprise, I have to build a team. And if the goal is to build an enterprise, I have to continue to reinvest in 5 things. That's people, process, infrastructure, innovation, and compliance. And because our focus was to build an enterprise that would provide both business and consulting services as well as staffing services, we felt the need to surround ourselves with people that had the functional or the business experience, and also I call them the tech geeks, if you may, who's not just thinking about today, but 5-10 years ahead. So started off, again, they say, right, in business, you can't get it all in one day. You can't get it all the very first year. So had to take baby steps, if you may.
Okay.
So the very first thing, what we did was I decided to go ahead and, during the 2004-2005 time frame, Dominique, a lot of corporations were implementing ERP. So decided to go ahead and support some of the customers in their ERP implementation process. So our very first customer was primarily a healthcare client in Maryland, where our goal was to help them through their ERP implementation. They had PeopleSoft then. So we helped them implement PeopleSoft HRMS. They really liked the way we did it. Then we implemented finance. And then when they acquired the Hackettstown Community Hospital in New Jersey, we help them with that acquisition as well as that implementation there as well.
Excellent.
But again, when I say baby steps, started off with consulting services, and then branched out to helping other customers, not only in their implementation journey, but also with their project ramp-ups by bringing the right subject matter experts.
Okay.
And then again, in this 20 years, we've ensured that we've diversified our risk two ways, right, Dominique? One, by investing in specific industries where we realized there were a lot of growth. And then secondly, in investing in resources that had the functional and the technical experience within those industry segments.
That makes sense. So let's take a step back, because you grew very fast, right? But did you bootstrap it with your own money? We want to talk to our viewers about being bankable, right? So what did you have to go through to get to where you are right now?
Oh my God, I'm going to be in tears, Dominique. But so let me talk about it, right? So like any other startup in 2004, access to capital was the biggest challenge and which continues to remain.
It still is. It still is the biggest challenge, right?
Many of these startups, right? So I still remember that day. We had already signed this contract with this end customer, which is a hospital. And I was excited. Driving back home, I was like, I got it. I'm sure the bank will be very open to go ahead and give a big line of credit. And I'll be able to run everything as planned. So I still remember I walked up to this bank and walked into this bank branch very close to my house, and then started having the conversation. And they said, well, we're here to help, but we'll have to tie a lien to your house. And I was like, wait a minute, I have a very good contract directly from the end customer. And this is like a huge implementation project, right? So
that's collateral in and of itself.
Right, absolutely, right? So, but then they said, well, if I'm not open to tying that lien to the house, they're not going to help me. Well, I walked out of the bank branch, and I'm not going to lie, Dominique, I got into the car and I just started crying.
Oh, of course.
I was like, because when I got this contract, I was like, wow, life is beautiful. This is it. We're gonna rock it, right? But when I look back, I'm glad it happened, because when that happened is when I realized, and I promised myself, we'll make sure that we never get to that stage.
Yes.
So how did I go past that hurdle? While I was driving back, while I was crying in the car, my dad would always tell me, Dominic, growing up, remember, and there's a solution to every single problem. You just got to think deep.
Wise man.
Exactly. And that is something that, because even today, right? I mean, some days, not all days are glory days in business, right? So even today, those are some of the things that would keep me, up and running, right? So got back. I was like, okay, let's think about possible solutions. So I went back to the client and renegotiated the contract terms. Okay. And when I said renegotiated the contract terms, specifically around the payment terms, and they were kind, and they said, well, and you can go ahead, instead of raising the invoice every 30 days, you can go ahead and raise the invoice every 15 days, and we'll make the payments net 15. Went back to some of the identified resources who were going to be part of that project, negotiated with them, so that way we were able to bridge that gap. Right?
I love that.
But I'm glad, Dominic, that happened then, because that was that night when I promised myself, I don't want to see the business again in that stage. Right. That is why till date, in this 20 years, there are a couple of things that we've continued to focus. One is reinvest back in the business every single year, right? Monies earned have been reinvested in people, process, infrastructure, innovation, and compliance. But monies earned have also been reinvested back in the business. So, and I think that's the reason why I've been able to sail through in this 20 years. We've seen it all. We've seen the economic downturn, we've seen government shutdown, and we've also seen the pandemic. But despite those bad conditions, we've continued to grow, thrive, and succeed in the marketplace because of those reinvestments, not only in people, process, infrastructure, and innovation, but also investing back in the business. Hence today, payroll has never been an issue. Awesome. And in this 20 years, our growth has been both organic and inorganic.
I want to talk about that, right? So but getting back to the bankability, right? So now when you walk into the bank, they're like, hello, and welcome. We're happy to have you, right? And we want to be able to help you because now you can utilize other people's money, right?
Absolutely.
And so let's talk about the organic versus inorganic growth. So for our viewers, organically, you're just building the business. But inorganically, you're acquiring other companies and it helps you to grow much faster. Talk about that.
Yeah, sure. And also, Dominic, you talked about the bankable piece, right? That is also because we've not only reinvested back in the business, but we've ensured that our books are clean.
Yes.
We've invested in audits, right? So we get audited by external auditors every single year.
Good for you.
So even the very first year in business, and we know for any startup, the numbers don't look good, but I knew that we had to do it right. And that was the investment that was made. And again, when you say bankable, banks also want to see that because if the confidence level is like, okay, if the books are clean, APs and ARs are managed really well, and monies are being reinvested, we looked at as less risk, right? And that's very important from a scalability perspective, right? So, and talking about organic and inorganic growth, till about last 6-7 years, all of our growth has been organic. But in the last 7 years, we've gone ahead and infused inorganic growth through acquisition. And why did we do that? For various reasons. One, expand our geographical footprint, right? Our customers were going from local to national to global. We wanted to walk the halls with them and also wanted to make sure that when they took that journey from local to national to global, we went with them. So one, expansion of geographical footprints. Second, be in industries where we didn't have a strong presence, but those customers were going through transformation and had the diverse mindset, if you may, of including and giving diverse businesses as well as mid-sized businesses a fair chance to succeed in the marketplace. So again, we saw there was a lot of transformation in industries where we didn't have a presence. And the third reason was also to, if you see customers may be based in a region, but then if you see their services, they want to service their customers 24 by 7. So they're looking for suppliers that are not only scalable, but also can support them. Hence felt the need of having delivery centers, not only nationally, but globally as well.
So you found gaps. And instead of building the business in areas that you weren't knowledgeable in, you bought companies that you could help support your customers in. So now you're international. I heard we talked off air about the center that you're about to open in India. Tell us about that expansive growth internationally.
Sure. So we in the United States, our global headquarters is, our corporate headquarters is in Chantilly, Virginia, because we're a Virginia company. We're proud to be incorporated in this beautiful state. But then in the United States, we also have 18 customer support offices because we support customers in over 48 states in the United States. We have employees that are based in those states, right? And then when we talk about global, with acquisition came people, with acquisition came their processes, with acquisition came their clients, and with acquisition came their delivery centers, right? And again, we have a huge presence in India. We have 6 delivery centers in India, but then we're also there in Vietnam. We're there in Philippines. We're there in the Middle East. We're there in Canada, and we're now looking at Mexico. So again, in true sense, the reason for that global expansion was basically so that we could continue to go ahead and support both internal as well as external customers. And here because again, today, Dominic, if you look at our client portfolio, we're supporting 80 of the Fortune 100 and 121 of the Fortune 1000 companies. And these companies may be headquartered here. However, they have their centers globally as well. It is so important to do that in order to be the supplier of choice.
Absolutely.
And also from an employee perspective, it is not only important to be a supplier of choice from a client perspective, it's also important to be an employer of choice from an employee perspective. So global expansion has really helped us to get to where we are today.
Excellent.
And acquisition has really amplified that growth, if you may, because like perfect example would be, Dominic, in Jan of 2020. Can you imagine the timing? Just before the pandemic.
Right. We shut it all down. Right.
We shut it down. But even despite the pandemic, I would say that was one of the best acquisitions because we acquired iTech Solutions in Jan of 2020. That's women-owned, which was a 25-year-old company when we acquired them. But if you see the experience and expertise they have a huge presence within the insurance sector. We have a strong presence within the banking and financial services sector. But if you talk about BFSI, what is missing was the insurance piece. With that acquisition came 20 of the insurance companies, right?
Wow.
As well as the financial institutions. So, and what we realized was there was a lot of transformation that was happening within the insurance sector. We already had the experience supporting banking financial customers, as well as utility and telecommunication, as well as healthcare, life sciences, pharmaceutical. But we realized there was a lot of transformation that was happening within the insurance sector. And all that we were doing within our banking financial services, that transformation, the areas that we specialize in could be replicated within the insurance sector too. So and same thing from a cybersecurity perspective too. We were always doing cybersecurity services for the federal government as well as for publicly traded companies. But with the acquisition of the Orbit Cyber, which is now an Ampcus cyber company, we were able to go ahead and provide additional services, not only IT security, but OT security, as well as audit services.
Wow, so full service. So
full service.
As widely successful as you are, what sets your business apart from other businesses? What is really unique about Ampcus?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dominique. I think from our perspective, I think it's important to identify the gaps in the industry. And we've got to know about those gaps because we've invested in internal research teams. And we're also continuously listening to our customers, right? And identifying those gaps and being that supplier, trying to bridge that gap and solve problem, not just for a particular customer, but solve a problem within the industry is very important. For instance, when we talk about cybersecurity, proud to say that we're the only women and minority-owned PCI audit firm across the globe. We're the only women and minority-owned cyber forensics audit firm. And we're the only women and minority-owned forensics accounting firm across the globe as well, right? So I think it's identifying those gaps, bridging those gaps, listening to your customers, and then leaning forward and being leaders within that industry to solve an industry problem.
Outstanding. I love the fact that you show up as a corporation, right? And so you show up and you bring your A game all the time, but also as a corporate plus member of NMSDC and CVMSDC, tell us what the benefit has been of being engaged with this organization, because you don't have to, right? But you do, and you show up and you support other MBEs and you give back. So how has being associated with us really helped you in your journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I'm proud to be incorporated in this region, spent over 25 years in this region in the state of Virginia. I'm proud to be a certified MBE by NMSDC. Also proud to be certified by WeBank. Now, if you see and we talked about this, the power of this network, this network is just amazing. If you think about this ecosystem, if you may, we have members of corporate America, we have members of agencies, we have members of nonprofits, and organizations like CVMSDC, CVMSDC, all have been doing a fantastic job changing our lives, right? By connecting us to members of corporate America, agencies, nonprofits, as well as our fellow MBEs, so that we all could collaborate and work together and bring an impact at the macro level. Because, Dominique, I've always been a firm believer, if you got to bring an impact at a macro level, you got to collaborate.
You have to collaborate.
Right? And I think from our perspective, there is so much that we've learned through this network. Not only made some great connections with members of corporate America, agencies and nonprofits and MBEs, but we've also learned on, the programs that they have to offer, right? Be it sending me to Robbins School of Business, University of Richmond, or sending me to Kellogg's so that I could go ahead and focus on strategic growth.
And all free of charge.
All free of charge, thanks to corporate America. They've sponsored us, thanks to these organizations. They've put us forward. Won those scholarships, and guess what? Every single thing has helped us to get to where we are today.
Excellent.
So I think this network is powerful. Now, you talked about giving it back. I think paving it forward is so very important because when I look back at my time in 2004, Dominic, there was nobody out there who would be like, from a business perspective, right? Corporations were supportive. From a business perspective, who would lean forward and say, hey, Anne, do you want to know how do we take this from here to here? Let me walk you through.
Right.
Or if are these the challenges that you're facing? Let us talk about it. And I felt there was that gap, right? And I wanted to bridge that gap. Our company, as a company, wanted to bridge that gap. And that is the reason for 15 consecutive years, ever since we've been certified, we've not only taken leadership roles within the board or leadership roles from a sponsorship perspective, supporting the organizations like CRMSDC, CVMSDC, and other regional affiliate councils, or the national organization, NMSDC. But we've also been intentional in doing businesses with other diverse small businesses, which include minority-owned, women-owned, LGBTQ-owned, veteran-owned, and so on. And Dominique, I think from our perspective, I've always believed together we win, together we'll continue to grow, thrive, and succeed in the marketplace.
That is a great way to end it. You've nailed it, right? Because we talked about having your paperwork in order, having your business in order, being audited so that you can be bankable, acquiring other companies so that you can grow exponentially, right? And then making sure that you give back. I thank you so much for always being there for the other MBEs, for sharing your story to give back. Let's end with your favorite word.
My favorite word is collaboration.
There you go.
Because together, when we collaborate, we continue to bring a positive impact in the marketplace. And together we win, together we will succeed.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. So if you are interested in more information on the services Ampcus Incorporated provides, visit ampcus.com. Well, that concludes today's episode of Intentionality. Be sure to join me for our next episode. And remember that we must always remain intentional to gain knowledge, skills, and connections so we can grow and thrive in business. I am Dominique Simpson-Milton, and I will see you next time.
This has been another episode of Intentionality with Dominique, brought to you by the CVMSDC. For more information, please visit cvmsdc.org.